SummerSlam 2019 is on our doorstep. What's going on, everyone? GoodMicWork back at you finally after a little bit of a break, some time off, and an out-of-town trip. I'm here now to give you some live SummerSlam predictions. SummerSlam comes to us, of course, live this Sunday from Toronto on the WWE Network, and I'm here to talk about the card. We're going to predict it, talk about what a weird type of SummerSlam build this has been this year. There's some really big notable names missing from this entire pay-per-view. It's a weird one, so we're going to kind of talk about it casually here, run through the card, predict everything. I'm going to talk about NXT TakeOver as well on Saturday. I'll predict that, get into some wrestling news, and that is about it. First of all, though, I want to say hello to everybody and make sure everybody's doing all right. I am not doing all right. I am under the weather. I don't know what happened. I was in Detroit over the weekend, and by second to last day there, I started not feeling right. I woke up in the hotel kind of feeling like shit, scratchy throat, things like that, and it's progressively gotten worse, and today is the worst it's been, which sucks, because I got to go to work here in a little bit, and I really hope I shake this off by Sunday, because I'm going to be up here live streaming my reaction to the entire SummerSlam pay-per-view. I never get sick. I usually brag like an asshole to my friends how I never get sick. I've gone stretches of like 6, 7, 8 years at a time without being sick before. And I was sick a little bit last year, and now I'm sick in the middle of the fucking summer, which I don't think has ever happened to me, ever. So I don't feel good, but I'm here to talk about this pay-per-view. We'll run through everything, and then I'll join you guys this Sunday, and we'll react to the whole show. Before we start getting into stuff, though, I'm just going to say hello to people real quick, go down to the chat and say what's up. The podcast, by the way, that should be launching next week. I'm ready to go now. Should have my first episode of that up next week. That will probably be a live stream. I'm going to do some of those live, some of those not live. But my first one, I did a pilot episode a week or so ago, just a test run. But it will officially launch next week, probably next Friday, probably a week from tomorrow is what I'm shooting for there. So the Winged Eagle will be off and running as of next week. So that's kind of exciting. Other than that, though, I have planned to get up a This Day in History tomorrow. That might be affected because I have not recorded this thing yet. It was on my schedule to record tonight, but because I'm feeling like shit, I don't know. I'm going to try to get it done if I can, but there is a chance the small 10-minute This Day in History video that I have planned for tomorrow might not be out. Apologize in advance for that, but I'm going to try to get it done. And then, of course, join me this Sunday. Hello, How Wheezy and Harry Rice, Hunter Helmsley, Strong Style, Marshall, Ernie, Austin, Joey, Eli McLean, Jared Luna, Dark, thought it said Santana, JL, all y'all. So, I don't know what kind of an audience we're going to have in here today. It's Thursday afternoon. It's Thursday at 6 p.m. on the East Coast. It's only 3 p.m. here. Under 100 people in here right now, but that's no big deal. This video will remain up on my channel throughout the duration of the weekend if you want to check back to my SummerSlam predictions later on. And also, as this progresses, if any of you would like to go through and put some timestamps in the comments below after this is uploaded or after we're done streaming here, I'll pin the tweet, or I'll pin the comment, to the top of the page. That way, if people want to hear my predictions on specific matches, they'll be able to do that. So if anybody wants to take the time after this is over to go through and write down a few timestamps in the comments, you're welcome to, and I'll pin you, just like they do on How Ridiculous. Thank you, McLean. I hope I feel better too, damn it. I'm fucking pissed. The funny thing is I'm more upset than anything else because I got so much going on. I've got a very busy week at work right now. I just went on vacation. As most of you know who probably go on vacation a lot, when you come home, there's a whole bunch of shit you got to catch up on. Work, just everyday stuff. And so I'm right in the middle of that, and I feel like I can't get anything done because I feel like crap. But nothing was going to stop me from coming up here and hanging out with you guys today. Want to give a couple of shout outs as well. In my Michigan trip, I met up with a couple of listeners. Met Jacob, the zombie fighter, over on Twitter. He happens to live in the same town that I was staying in, Saginaw, where my family get-together was taking place. So I was able to meet up with him, and then on Sunday, this past Sunday, I was going to be staying near the Detroit area to get back on the plane. So I was staying in an airport near the hotel, and my girlfriend and I met up with Aaron Rift from No DQ and his girlfriend. We had some drinks and appetizers at Dave & Buster's, played a couple of games, so that was kind of cool. So it was nice to kind of do some channel stuff as well, and I'm sorry to those of you who I did miss DMs from. I let you guys know that I was up there, and if anybody lives in that area in Michigan, you're welcome to DM me, and I think I missed like 3 of you. One of you couldn't make it anyway. The other 2 I really apologize that I did not see those messages and we weren't able to hook up. But we'll try to do that next time. And let me know if any of you are heading on the Jericho cruise in January. I'll be on that, and we can have some beers together. Other than that, I would like to try to get the word out anytime I go to a city, and say, hey, if there's any listeners that might maybe want to meet up at a bar for a drink or just to hang out for a bit, it'll be fun. We're going to try to do that anytime I head out of town. No, I did not read when I got home on Monday, incidentally. No, Ernie. I did not read my Hardy the Horse book, which was Salamonster got his mother's children's book published, which I thought that was really cool. And it is now on sale on Amazon, and I bought that thing right away. I tweeted him a picture of it. You must have seen that. But no, I'm going to give that to my niece. I've got a 4-year-old niece. I think that would be perfect for her. It'll be make a nice little present. But I don't know when the next time I'm going to see her again. But as soon as I do, I'm giving her that book. Did somebody give me a dislike, JJ Leg? Who's the asshole? Hunter Helmsley, thanks for staying up late in England, 11 p.m. over in the UK. Awesome. Middle of the damn afternoon, and it's a hot one, too. It's like 85 degrees, which makes me even more mad that I'm sick, because I should not be sick when it's 85 degrees outside. Pisses me off. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of the pleasantries out of the way there, because the maximum amount of time I have to stream today is going to be an hour, because I really have to get out of here and get to work. But I want to run through some news first. There's really not too much that I have jotted down because, like I said, I feel like shit, and I did not do a ton of research and writing down news and notes to discuss for this time around. The only things I did want to mention, however, was Hulk Hogan on Stone Cold's podcast. They did record that prior to the Raw reunion show a couple of weeks ago. I listened to that while I was in Detroit. Very interesting listen. I don't know if those of you who have not listened to it yet, it's definitely worth it, because Austin and Hogan's dynamic and relationship over the years has been strange and strained. And there's been some underlying heat because of various reasons. These are two massive egos. And I think Austin, when Hogan came into WCW, which Austin mentioned on the podcast, that he was kind of upset and threatened that his spot that he's been working so hard for is now going to be compromised because all these guys from the WWE are coming in, and he harbored resentment towards Hogan. That would last, into his ECW days when he dressed up as Hulk Hogan. They did not address that on the podcast. I don't think. If they did, I missed it. I was kind of hoping, and Hogan might not even known that Austin did that, but that was a pretty big deal when Austin dressed up as Hogan on ECW. Steve-A-Mania or whatever he did, called it lame ass shit, and that was when Austin still had the long blonde hair, so he actually looked a lot like Hogan, and I'm surprised they didn't bring that up. But then later on, as Austin became huge in WWE and basically surpassed Hogan as far as the top star in the business, I mean, nobody was more over than Austin was during those Attitude Era years. And then when Hogan came back into the company in 2002, there was more resentment because they weren't working together. Austin didn't want to work with Hogan for whatever reason, and those are the two that probably should have been put together first, but instead, Hogan worked with Rock. And there was even talk of them doing a match as late as 2006, right? Remember Austin calling out Hogan at the Hall of Fame, I believe, when he inducted Brett? So there was many chances to have this match happen, and it never did. Both men expressed regret in that, and especially Austin. I mean, Austin was pretty much straight up. He said, I have a lot of going on in my mind mentally. There was a lot of animosity towards him that really shouldn't have been there. If they could have just gotten together, gotten in a room, had a conversation, and done business probably could have been done. But unfortunately, we never saw that. So those were the parts of the podcast that I was most interested in listening to. There were a couple of other really interesting stories there. I was not aware of Hogan's near-death experience. Where was he? Guatemala or something like that? Getting some stem cell procedures done, and then something had happened to him on the table there, and he nearly cashed out, which is kind of scary. Hogan talks a lot about the 80s as well, and hanging with guys like Dr. D. David Schultz, which even as a kid, I was absolutely terrified of. He was just really, really a scary guy for a 9-year-old kid to watch on TV. So I thoroughly enjoyed that podcast. I didn't think that I would, because Hogan is kind of a liar. I mean, every other word out of Hogan's mouth is suspect. You can never really take him at face value because he's been caught in so many lies before. But for the most part, I genuinely believed everything he was saying in the podcast, except for the long running, and even Austin called Hogan out on this. Hogan has always sworn up and down that at WrestleMania 3, a match that I witnessed live in the Pontiac Silverdome against Andre the Giant, Hogan always swears to God that he did not know the finish. He didn't know what was going to happen, and he didn't know that Andre was really going to put him over. And I'm like, bull fucking shit. And he tried to pull that again on the podcast, and Austin was like, you know what? I want you to elaborate on that because you always say that. And Hogan tells the story about how Andre called the body slam, and then he called the leg drop, and then the pin. And I'm like, there's no way. That shit was completely laid out before they went in there. And I know I was just a kid at the time. I wasn't behind closed doors. I wasn't in the room with Vince and Hogan and Andre. But I will bet my left nut that there is absolutely no way that they were going out there not knowing what was going to happen. And I don't know why Hogan insists on pushing this, what I believe to be an untruth. If you ask me, Vince would not put those guys out there in that match if he thought there was a potential for an audible to be called or for the plans that Vince wanted. Vince goes to great lengths to get what he wants. We saw that at the Survivor Series in 1997. If he wants a finish, he's going to get that finish no matter what. So I don't believe that Vince would fly out to the filming location of The Princess Bride, convince Andre to come back. Look, you're at the tail end of your career here. You got a bad back. You know, what if we give you one more big match, one more epic confrontation? We'll turn you heel, put you against Hogan. You can have the biggest main event in professional wrestling history, a main event that still stands to this day, I believe, as the biggest main event ever in the history of wrestling, 30 some odd years later. There's just no way that Andre was going to say, oh, nope, I'm not going to put him over. Like, there's just no way, not in a match that big. So when Vince proposes this to Andre, and Andre's like, yes, I'll take the payday. I'll go out, in one of the greatest ways possible. And I know Andre hung around for a couple of more years, but that was pretty much his peak. He would never really reach that height again, and he would decline in health, up until the time that he died. So for Vince to go through all that trouble to convince Andre to come back, have the match at WrestleMania 3, and then be okay with Andre just not deciding what he wants to do until the match is going on, there's no way in a million years I will believe that. So I think right from the word go, the plan was for Hogan to slam, leg drop, and pin Andre, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I think Hogan is full to his bald fucking head with shit. And yeah, plus Hogan had body slammed Andre lots before, but that's Ratnick, that's totally different. Andre was in a lot better shape back then. Andre was lighter. Slamming Andre in 1987 was a lot different than slamming Andre in 1982. I believe Stan Hansen even slammed Andre the Giant at one point. But Andre, as big as he was at that time and how in poor health that he was, I mean, Hogan was essentially lifting up dead weight there. When you go up for a body slam, you help your opponent up. You help him up. You push off the knee, all that stuff to help your opponent get you over and down. Andre just basically had to let Hogan pick him up. Fucking crazy. And I have not read all of Hogan's book. I've read parts of it, but Hogan's full of shit with that, man. I will never believe, ever, no matter what he says, that finish was not determined ahead of time. But just wanted to mention to you guys that I did listen to that, and I was curious if you guys did too. Harley Race, of course, passed away last week. He passed away right before I left for vacation. I came up and did a quick live stream, off-camera live stream discussing his passing. I didn't have any notes written down, so I didn't get too much into Harley's history and everything. I just gave you guys a few memories that I have of him and what I remember of him in NWA and WWE. And what a great, amazing champion he was, and it's really sad. Lung cancer, I believe, was the culprit there, which he finally succumbed to. Only 76, which is a shame. But Harley was a smoker. He was never really, he never looked to be in the greatest of health. Even in 1986, he looked like he was 50 years old, So it's a shame because Harley was one of the best world champions the business has ever seen, and he's a fucking man's man. All these wrestlers now drinking these like hard seltzers, these White Claws. Harley would shoot you if he saw you drinking one of those things around him. Fucking pussies. But anyway, rest in peace to Harley Race as well. Wanted to give him one final shout out. And it was announced, I believe, yesterday or today that SummerSlam next year SummerSlam 2020 will be held in Boston, I guess, at the TD Garden. So first time SummerSlam's going back there. I don't know the last year they were there. Probably within the last 10. Somewhere around that. Was it during that Edge John Cena feud, somewhere in there? Anyway, I don't remember the last time SummerSlam hit up Boston, but they will get it next year, and good for them. That's a good market, good city, and seems to be a pattern. So far, the last, 5, 6, 7 years, SummerSlam's either been in New York or the Northeast area. New York, Toronto, and now Boston next year. Interesting. But as far as news goes, that's all I really had written down for that. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Hey, what's up, Scorp? And we'll get into the predictions, here. And I'm hopped up on a lot of cold medicine right here, so if I'm kind of stumbling or whatever, I apologize in advance. But I am a mess. I do want to mention TakeOver real quick. I have paid such little attention to NXT in the past probably month. So I have the card for TakeOver written down here. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be off on Saturday. If I was, I would be up here live streaming. But after a vacation, it's really going to be hard for me to justify taking another Saturday night off of work. So I'm going to have to be there. So I'm going to miss TakeOver live. Unfortunately, I won't be live reacting or live tweeting, but I will definitely check out the show when I get home. And it looks pretty badass. I only have 5 matches written down for the show, and I have seen virtually none of this build for any of these matches at all. So my predictions are going to suck, and I'm not going to spend too much time on them. I'm going to run through them. Candice LeRae taking on Io Shirai. I'm going to go with Io Shirai on that. We've got the Undisputed Era taking on the Street Profits. Now, the Street Profits have been hanging out behind or backstage on Raw like every week in these ridiculous backstage segments, none of which I've been a huge fan of. I like the Street Profits. I like them a lot. But I don't think they really have any business being on WWE TV yet. They did the same thing with the Viking Raiders when they brought them up as tag team champions. And now Street Profits are just backstage, not having matches, just back there with the NXT titles, I guess getting the WWE main roster audience used to them, I guess is why they're there, and getting them some main TV rub and time. But they're NXT champions. So if you're going to keep them on Raw, and this is going to be a thing, and they're going to be on TV and start having matches soon, I think they should drop the belts. So I'm going to predict Undisputed Era to regain the NXT Tag Team titles. That way, if WWE wants to have the Street Profits on Raw permanently, I will personally feel a lot better about it. But I don't know what you guys think there. I like the Undisputed Era. I would love to see O'Reilly and Fish get those belts back. Roderick Strong also has a chance to win a title on Saturday, as he is going to be challenging for the North American title in the triple threat against Velveteen Dream and Pete Dunne. I wish I would have seen more of this build, because I would love to see Pete Dunne win. I fucking love him. Now that his long run with the NXT title is over, and he dropped it to Walter like that, to see him win a major championship on the NXT's main brand, I think would be great. So I really, really want to predict Pete Dunne to win, but I'm going to go with Velveteen to retain. I feel like since the North American title was created, it's been bounced around a lot. So who have we had? We have Adam Cole and Ricochet, Velveteen, Gargano, maybe somebody else. I forget. But I think enough's enough with that. Let's have Velveteen go on a pretty decent run with it. So I want Velveteen to retain there. Shayna Baszler defending the NXT title against Mia Yim. I'm going to probably surprise everyone here and go Baszler again. I was predicting Baszler for the past year. Every pay-per-view, I would say Baszler, Baszler, Baszler. People were predicting Baszler to lose her title pretty sure as early as like Evolution last year or something, right? So I said that she needs to go on a long run with it, and I predicted her to possibly lose it at TakeOver on WrestleMania weekend. I said any time up until that point, she needs to retain. But once we get to WrestleMania, maybe she can drop it. But then during the TakeOver match, I didn't really see her dropping it there, so I predicted her again. And I keep predicting her. And here we are again, TakeOver Toronto, big match against Mia Yim. I'm going to go Baszler to retain one more time. Why not? You know, what does it hurt? Well, she's going to tear through everybody, Greg. Who's it going to leave to challenge? I don't know. Asuka tore through everybody. Nobody bitched about that. I think people just don't like Baszler as much as they like Asuka. So if Asuka goes on a 5-year winning streak, not only do they want her to not lose, they want her to continue to win. And when she runs into somebody like Charlotte at WrestleMania, they think she should still win. But somehow that logic does not apply here to Shayna Baszler. Now the argument is, oh, she needs to lose because she's just going to run through everybody. She's going to leave nobody else left to pass the torch to. Well, which is it? Because you didn't seem to have that problem when Asuka was champion. All of a sudden, it's an issue with Baszler being champion. So I don't believe the fans when they say shit like that. So I'm going to go Shayna Baszler to retain again and have her continue to roll. I have no idea at this point when she's going to drop it. They could bring her up with the title. That could be a possibility. But, you know, we've seen what WWE tends to do with these NXT talents when they're called up. Look at what happened to Asuka. Look at what happened to Kairi Sane. They're together doing nothing right now, losing tag team title matches on Raw and then crying with Paige when it's over. By the way, new tag team champions in Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross that took place last week. So I think if you want to build Baszler as this badass, you know we're going to have Ronda Rousey back some point in WWE. If you want to try your best to build Baszler as a Ronda or Brock Lesnar type of star, you got to have her just keep beating the shit out of people. So I'm going to predict her to retain yet again, which I didn't think I would predict her to retain the title this far. But I'm just not feeling it. All of her matches, I'm just not feeling it. So I could be completely wrong on that. She could finally drop the belt here and then head over to the main roster. I'm not saying I'm right because I just said I don't know shit about these NXT TakeOver builds. But I like Shayna Baszler. I like the run that she's on. I enjoyed it when Asuka had her long streak, and I'm enjoying it when Baszler has her long streak. Why the fans think they're two separate things is beyond me. You know, one set of rules applies for Asuka and a different set applies for Baszler. I think the same set applies to both. And I want to see Baszler retain and keep running because it's also going to piss off Twitter, and that's always fun. So I'm predicting Baszler to retain. And in the main event, Johnny Gargano versus Adam Cole, NXT title on the line, 2 out of 3 falls. This one I would like to predict Cole to retain, I would think. I don't know if you could do something fun, have some interference. Tommaso Ciampa got injured. He was supposed to have another match with Gargano prior to getting injured. So maybe he comes back here and helps Gargano win the title or something, and then the two of them can have the match that they meant to have before the injury. That could be a possibility. But if that happens, I don't know where that leaves Undisputed Era because I predicted them to regain the tag team titles. So I think everybody might be a champ except Roderick Strong, which maybe he gets pushed out of the group at that point. Or maybe they all lose. Maybe Street Profits retain. We have Velveteen retain, and we have Gargano winning the NXT title, leaving all members of Undisputed Era beltless and pissed. Maybe they head on over to the main roster as a faction. Got a lot of factions building right now on the main roster with the OC and a couple of others, so maybe that's the plan there. I really don't know. But 2 out of 3 falls, I'm going to go with Adam Cole to retain somehow, whether he does that on his own, whether there's a run-in from Tommaso, whatever. At the end of the day, I think Cole walks out with the belt. And that does it for NXT TakeOver. Before we get into the SummerSlam predictions, I will just peek down here at the chat, check our audience. If I can find us, there we are. All right, over 100 folks in here, not bad. Hey, we all do me a favor since I'm sick. Do it because I'm sick, because I'm powering through this flu bug to do a stream. Will you hook me up with some likes? I'd appreciate that. We only have 55 in here right now. And make sure you subscribe to my channel. I will be up this Sunday live reacting to SummerSlam. Hopefully, I'll be feeling better by Sunday so I can have a couple of tasty alcoholic beverages. But right now, it's the good old Ralph's Purified Drinking Water. So cheers. Velveteen Dream is extremely boring. I extremely disagree. That's probably one of the most ridiculous assessments I've ever heard of any wrestler ever. The most non-boring person underneath the entire company umbrella, with the exception of maybe the Fiend Bray Wyatt, you think is boring. Harry Rice, seek therapy. Luna Strife, WWE's holding Asuka and Sane down. Just my thought. No shit. They definitely are holding them down. You know, and I mentioned this too. I mentioned it. I got home on Monday, so I did not have the energy to live stream. Plus, I felt like shit. So I was live tweeting during Raw, and during that triple threat for the tag team titles, I was looking at Paige, and I'm like, why is Paige even out there with them? Clearly, I understand they're giving something for Paige to do. They're giving all three of these ladies something to do because they're not doing shit with Asuka, Kairi Sane, or Paige. So you put them all together, and it gives them something to do. I understand that. But they don't match. I don't think. Did you see too on Raw? They had when they do the graphics for the wrestlers. They had Kairi Sane and Asuka coming out, and underneath it, they had their Twitter handles for Asuka and Io Shirai. Gives you a good idea of where WWE's head's at with these ladies. They're two Japanese ladies, and they put the wrong fucking name in there. It's crazy. So none of that shit makes sense. The team doesn't make sense. I think both of those ladies could be contenders for either titles, women's championship, or either brand's women's championship, and Paige can be doing something else. Something completely different. I mentioned on Monday that I think Paige, if she got a little bit of an attitude change and you put her in a managerial role with like a heel male wrestler, like a Dolph Ziggler or somebody like that, she could be a modern day Sherry Martel. She's very dark like that. She can wear hot, slutty dresses with her tits hanging out, and you could have put a brick in her purse, wild makeup. Sherry was always very animated, and I think Paige can be that way too, because Paige has a wild side. And have her going nuts on the outside of the ring, just being a dirty, evil, vicious manager, female manager, or valet, or whatever you want to call her. And I think she could pull a role like that off. It would be a lot better than what they're doing with her now, just randomly sticking her with Asuka and Kairi, which makes no sense. And their mashup sucks. I think this team is just together. I mean, I'm almost happy they didn't win the tag team titles because I don't want to see the team together at all. They should have dominated that triple threat. Io and Asuka should have gone in there and beat all four of those other ladies in like 10 seconds if this was the real thing. But instead, they're left sitting there looking like idiots after they lose the match, and then they're crying on Paige's shoulder, on each other's shoulder. Not a good look for that team. And I was disappointed with what we saw on Monday. I mean, so far, all of the title wins, aside from Sasha and Bayley winning them originally, which we expected to happen, them dropping them at WrestleMania, and then the Iconics dropping them randomly on Monday Night Raw, both title switches came out of left field for me. I thought WrestleMania was way too soon for Bayley and Sasha to lose the belts, and as much as I find the Iconics obnoxious, I didn't think they should be really losing the belts on Raw either. Just random. Just felt random. Why? What are they thinking? What makes them wake up that morning and decide, let's just do a title change on Raw, triple threat, just to do it? I understand there's a storyline going on with Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, but we know where that's going. Alexa Bliss has formed alliances with other ladies before. What happens? She uses them, manipulates them, whatever. And on top of that, Alexa's been doing like literally no wrestling lately. She's getting in the ring, doing the bare minimum. She's extremely protected, whether WWE's doing that on purpose or whether that's because of her recent injuries, I don't know. But it's starting to piss the fans off, and they're starting to take notice. And they're starting to say, hey, this girl's sitting out there on the apron the whole match, doing absolutely nothing, and now she's a champion. Bullshit. But I still think like them having the titles isn't necessarily surprising. It came out of nowhere. Why didn't they do it Sunday at SummerSlam? I just don't get it. Paige, hey, that's a good one right there, Down Ice. Paige and Aleister Black would be great. They would be great. I don't know how Zelina Vega would feel about that, but they would match. They both kind of have that emo, goth, black eyeliner type of look to them with the tattoos and all that. It might be good. I mean, I just think Paige, she could. I see her. I see like shades of Sherry in her, just a little bit, because of her look, and she's dressed in black a lot, like Sherry used to be. Sherry was not Miss Elizabeth. Sherry, she dressed like a slut. It was always black or dark colors. She had crazy wild makeup, and she was a badass. She could beat up half the men. Sherry was no joke. So Paige, I know she can't take bumps and things like that, but she could probably take a little bit of abuse. Sherry didn't take crazy bumps or anything, so maybe Paige getting shoved down a time or two or something and wouldn't hurt her. Good sick work, yeah. Putting Paige with the Iconics, maybe. I'm kind of envisioning a different type of attitude for Paige than the Iconics. The Iconics are loud, they're obnoxious. Billie Kay is hilarious. I will give her that much, even though she's obnoxious as fuck. But I don't think Paige would be a good fit with them. And plus, they do so much talking on their own, they don't need anybody with them, my opinion. Not that that would stop WWE. Addicted Chip, what's going on? And we got about 130 people in here right now. That's not bad. I'm going to get into these SummerSlam predictions now. And we're going to start talking about that. Now, the funny thing is there's so many notable names missing from this. I like how I say only, because this seems like it's a low amount of matches. I only have 10 matches written down. There is a 2-hour kickoff show. This show starts for me at 2 p.m. Pacific time on Sunday. And I will be up here when the main card starts. In case you're wondering for the live reaction, I will not be reacting to the kickoff, only the main card. And the only match I know for sure that will definitely be on the kickoff is going to be that cruiserweight match. We know that. But if it's a 2-hour kickoff, they're going to have to add some stuff. So I would not be surprised at all if we get a tag team title match, SmackDown tags or Raw tags. Neither belt is defended. We also don't have an Intercontinental title match on the pay-per-view, so maybe they could put Shinsuke in there with Ali or something like that, since Ali did beat him on SmackDown a couple of weeks ago, so maybe they add that match to the kickoff. I don't know. But the only one I know of for sure that will be on the kickoff is probably going to be Gulak and Oni Lorcan, and possibly... Do you think they would do Styles and Ricochet on the kickoff? I hope not, but if we don't add any other matches, that might be another one that they stick on there. But let's start on the bottom of the card and work our way up. Actually, scratch that. Let's start with the people that are not on the card. Number one, like I said, no Intercontinental title match, no Raw Tag Team title match, no SmackDown Tag Team title match, and we also are not getting Aleister Black and Sami Zayn. That was supposed to happen. There was the promo, right? The split screen and Aleister's, or what the fuck was it? Sammy was sitting there and then Aleister came in and accepted the challenge. I don't know what the fuck they did there, but it was supposed to be Sammy and Aleister, and for some reason that match is no longer booked for the show. They did it last week on SmackDown instead, with probably the same outcome that would have happened if it was on the pay-per-view. Aleister Black winning with his finish. That's the way I would have booked it anyway. But it's a shame that they don't feel like there's room for this match on the card. So that's kind of weird. And it just goes to show you how strangely booked this SummerSlam is. The whole card is like this. You know, every week leading up to this SummerSlam does not give me that special feeling that most do. This SummerSlam doesn't give me that feeling of, this is awesome. It's the second biggest pay-per-view of the year. We're guaranteed to see some crazy shit. It's just been a strange build. And we've heard stories of Vince McMahon tearing up scripts, even as recent as last week or this week on SmackDown, right before the show, 2 hours before the show. Vince decides to tear it up and rewrite it. Same type of shit we would have made fun of WCW for 20 years ago. They're doing the exact same thing now. So shit's kind of convoluted. It's a mess, and it seems like a clusterfuck. And maybe Heyman and Bischoff are still working on getting into their roles. Heyman, I think, is off and running on Raw. There have been some word from some of the more credible news sites like Ryan Satin and Fightful and guys like that are saying that Eric Bischoff isn't really integrated into his role yet, and he's still getting used to things, becoming familiar with his surroundings, and may not have as strong as a creative hand on SmackDown than that Paul Heyman has on Raw. So that's probably likely, since we have only heard of these script rewrites, these last-minute rewrites on SmackDown, not on Raw. Maybe Paul Heyman says, hey, if you ever pull that shit on me, I'll quit. So they're not doing it over there. I don't know. Addicted Chip, thanks for the super chat, man. I was just about to talk about Braun Strowman. Bold prediction, Braun Strowman replaces Seth. That's a good one. I've been thinking, and I'm going to talk about the main event here in a little bit, but there's so many weird things about it, and I'm not sure what to make of it. Braun Strowman has kind of been invisible last couple of weeks, especially when it looked like he was back on track to get a mega push. And I thought Braun Strowman would make a much better babyface champion than Seth. I think the fans like Braun Strowman better. He beat Bobby Lashley at Extreme Rules. I thought that might lead to a match down the line where he gets the belt finally. But we haven't seen much from Braun lately. So Braun could fit in anywhere. Not really sure yet, but it would be cool if he came out there and replaced Seth. I don't know, though. That's your main event. And I don't think the fans would have any problem with that, but you have advertised and built on TV Seth and Brock to do a last-minute swerve like that. Like I said, not out of the question, but would definitely be coming out of left field. Roman Reigns also, which is insane to say this, Roman Reigns, who won the Universal title last year in the main event defeating Brock Lesnar, is now not booked for this SummerSlam. They've been doing the angles on TV where on SmackDown somebody was driving a forklift and dumped a bunch of shit over on him. And then this past week on Raw, when he's about to have a confrontation with Samoa Joe, he's involved in a hit and run. A car drives in and smashes into his truck. Joe came out on TV, I think, to open Raw, very pissed off, standing on the announce desk, infuriated that everybody thinks he's the one that attacked Roman Reigns. And he's going to confront Roman Reigns when he gets here and all this shit. And then Roman shows up in his car. They're about to fight, and then Roman is smashed into by another car. What I liked about that is how Joe kind of changed. It was believable. You know, Joe went to go check on Roman. He was like, come on, get some help, get some help. He went from wanting to kill this guy or wanting to fight this guy to now being very concerned for his well-being, which was kind of cool because Joe is a great actor. Joe's really intense. I believe when Joe says things. I believe when Joe does things. And on Monday, he really legitimately looked like a guy, and I believed him when he was concerned for Roman Reigns. Yeah, I hate this guy. Yeah, I'm pissed off that he thinks I'm the one who attacked him. Yeah, I want to kick his ass, but I also don't want the guy to die in a car accident, you know, kind of thing. So it kind of gave a human element to Joe and showed that, you know, people might want to have their differences, but nobody's trying to kill anyone. And you basically have somebody, and we've seen this before over the years, several times, saw it with Austin and others. We basically have somebody running around WWE trying to murder another wrestler. And the only investigations that are being launched are not by the authorities or the police, but by WWE. Have you seen the stupid ass shit that they put on their website and on Twitter? More information as we continue to investigate the attempted attack on Roman Reigns. Turns out the original forklift driver was homesick or something like that. They're coming out with all these little stupid bits of evidence when they're trying to figure out who attacked Roman Reigns, and it's so gut-wrenchingly stupid. But Samoa Joe, I think, is adding a little bit to it. Roman Reigns is adding to it. Roman Reigns is doing a good job in all of this, too. As a matter of fact, on SmackDown, he issued an apology. He had a sit-down segment or interview with Kayla Braxton, and he apologized to Samoa Joe for accusing him and knows that it wasn't him now because Joe was right in front of him when the car smashed into him. Now, I don't think that means that Joe is innocent at all, but I also like the possibility of maybe a Samoa Joe babyface turn. Maybe Joe and Roman form some sort of a Samoan alliance. It's really hard to picture Samoa Joe as a babyface, but given the fact that he does nothing but lose, and given the fact that he's really, I think, ran his course as a heel in WWE because of everybody that he's lost to and worked with already, maybe just turning him babyface is the way to go, and having him team up with Roman Reigns might help both guys, might help bring Joe up, and might also help Roman get a little bit more cheers from the fans, since most people like Samoa Joe, even though he's a asshole heel. So I liked all of that. Roman Reigns on SmackDown vowed to find out who his attacker was. Buddy Murphy was seen at the scene of the crime, so Roman went to go question him. Buddy Murphy alluded to the fact that he knew who did it, so Roman just starts kicking his ass and torturing him until he agrees to tell him, and he said it was Rowan. Buddy Murphy says, it was Rowan, and that was the initial rumor all along, was that Daniel Bryan was going to be the one responsible for this, and this would lead to a match between Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. Well, guess what? SummerSlam is Sunday. They didn't have a chance to even do this unless they make an impromptu match last minute, unless Roman Reigns comes out there and calls out Eric Rowan at SummerSlam, which I think that's likely. We're probably going to see maybe not a match, but maybe a segment. Because what year was it that they did the segment with Shawn Michaels and he was going to retire? And Chris Jericho was out there and he punched Shawn's wife and all of that. That was a big segment at SummerSlam. So maybe you do some sort of a big segment here. You know, even the I think even when Austin found out that it was Rikishi, I don't think it was even a match with Rikishi at No Mercy or whatever pay-per-view that was that they finally wrestled. It was just a street fight. And Austin tried to run over Rikishi with a car until the cops showed up and arrested him. So maybe this is just a segment. Maybe Roman comes out to the ring and we find out that it was Daniel Bryan. It could go a lot of different ways here. It could be Daniel Bryan, Eric Rowan, and Buddy Murphy all involved in this together. Maybe they're going to form some sort of an alliance. Luke Harper, we still don't know what's going on with him. What if it turns out that Luke Harper is in on this too, and he joins the fray a little bit? Maybe Daniel Bryan, because he was in the ring when Buddy Murphy said that it was Rowan. He was in the ring with Rowan preparing for their tag match, or it was after the tag match or whatever. And he did kind of look at Rowan like he was surprised. So maybe this convinces Bryan to go back babyface, or maybe this is just more of Bryan's ploy, and he's the one actually out to get Roman Reigns here. I got another idea, and this one's weird, because I don't know how you would do this. I don't know what sense it makes, especially since we've seen so much of the Buddy Murphy and Daniel Bryan and Rowan talk, and it definitely looks like they're going in that direction. And thank you for that super chat, Spaz. I'll answer that in a minute. But one crazy idea I had is that if you notice in both attacks, the attack on Raw and the attack on SmackDown, that Roman wasn't really injured either time. The stupid thing fell on him on SmackDown, and they kind of got him up, and he was all right, just shaken up, but not injured. Same thing with the automobile. You know, he was smashed into, maybe a little bit shaken up, maybe a little bit bruised, but judging by the way he looked on SmackDown, no worse for the wear. So he really wasn't injured, either time. Am I the only one that finds that strange? Do you think that it's at all possible that Roman is somehow the mastermind behind this whole thing? Maybe he's staging this. Maybe he's setting it up. I don't know what that would mean. Is that going to be the beginning of a heel faction like Chad Jones is referencing? Roman, Samoa Joe, and the Usos? Jimmy's got some work to do. He better get his fucking ducks in a row. But if they wanted to do that as Samoan Shield, I'd be down with that. Totally. But it still doesn't explain why Roman would go to these lengths to fake these attacks. So that would have to take a different turn storyline-wise for that to make sense. But I do find it odd that Roman wasn't injured. You know, because he could have been. He could have been injured in those attacks because he's not having a match at SummerSlam, so what's the difference to keep him off TV for a couple of weeks to sell the injuries? The fact that he was not injured makes me think that maybe we'll get some answers at SummerSlam. We might actually get them. So maybe Roman comes out to the ring, calls out his assailant, Rowan comes out, Bryan comes out, maybe Joe comes out to help. Maybe Joe has been behind it the whole time. Maybe Joe has just paid Rowan to run him over, and he's playing Roman. That could very well happen, but what does that mean if it is? What does that mean? It means that Samoa Joe and Roman Reigns are going to feud again. And we all know who's going to come out on top of that, especially if it turns out that Joe was the one trying to kill Roman Reigns. Then you're going to put them in a program together and you think Joe's going to win? Get the fuck out of here. It's going to be Roman all the way there. So I don't want to see that. I'd rather see Samoa Joe go babyface and align himself with Roman than see Samoa Joe be the one being behind these attacks and then feuding with Roman. I think it would be more beneficial for Joe to align himself with Roman and maybe eventually form a shield, a Samoan shield, like you guys mentioned with the Usos. That would be fun. What do y'all think about that? Let me answer the super chat real quick from Spaz Phoenix. Thank you for that, brother. Thank you for the $5. Happy SummerSlam weekend. Fair warning, I'll be tagging you in pics from Destiny, TakeOver, SummerSlam, Raw, and SmackDown. Go for it. Tag the shit out of me. Wow, you're doing a lot. 5 shows? Right on. That should be fun. Yeah, it's right in your backyard there, Spaz Toronto. I'm glad you're able to experience that. I am jealous. Steven Scott. It could be Seth Rollins. Yeah, it could. I thought about that too, but Seth's got his hands full. There's one thing that's not being able to be faked here, and that's Seth Rollins getting his ass kicked and ass handed to him by Brock Lesnar on a weekly basis. Remember when I told you guys I was sick? I need to do a real quick nose blow. So excuse me here. Pardon me. And I'm going to shut the mic off too so you don't have to hear this disgusting cough. Oh, yeah, thank you for that, guys. That was gnarly. Holy shit. Appreciate that, man. I am so under the weather. I do not know what's going on with me. But I'm going to talk about Seth Rollins a lot, too, and the possibility of him going heel, because there's a lot going on with his match against Brock Lesnar, and I don't know what the hell to do here. There's a lot of matches on this card that I think I could have potentially predicted wrong. We'll see. But let's jump. Could be Dean Ambrose. Very good. That is very true. And what's going on, by the way, speaking of that, I've got the latest results pulled up here. The G1 wraps up this weekend, I believe. And I have missed the last couple of nights of this, and I wasn't aware of Jon Moxley's losing streak. He still sits on top of the B block at 5-3 with 10 points. But he took a loss to Jay White, among others, which I have not watched that match yet. We have Okada leading the A block at 7-1 with 14 points. Kota Ibushi at 6-2, Kenta at 4-4, Tanahashi at 4-4, Evil and Sonata both at 4-4. Zack Sabre Jr., Will Ospreay, Bad Luck Fale all at 3-5, and Lance Archer at the bottom at 2-6. We've got Naito, Goto, and Jay White and Moxley all sitting atop of the B block at 5-3 with 10 points. Ishii at 4-4. Toru Yano 4-4, who also defeated Jon Moxley. Takagi at 4-4. Juice Robinson 3-5. Jeff Cobb and Taichi also at 3-5 at 6 points at the bottom there. So that does wrap up, I believe, this weekend. So I thought they might be going for like a Moxley undefeated G1, but that's clearly not the case now. Right now, it looks like odds on favorite is our boy Okada. But yeah, again, with that stuff too, have not been paying much attention to that. But it would be cool if it did turn out to be Moxley attacking Roman Reigns. How fun would that be? Yes, Zombie Fighter. Shout out to Zombie Fighter 89, who I met while I was up there in Michigan. Something happened to me, dude. Something happened to me that day when I woke up before we met you. I was not feeling right. And then I felt even worse the next day. And I felt like shit ever since. So I don't know what Michigan gave me on my way out there. It was probably just being in hotels and then flying home in that tube of germs all the way across the country. I absolutely hate airplanes. So I think I just got a lot of germs in me. So I'm trying to flush them out and stay hydrated and stay energized. And it's really, really hard right now. But hopefully by Sunday, I will shake this thing off. I'll kick out at 2 and we'll be ready to rock and roll for SummerSlam. EC3, you're not the first person to mention him. I got tweeted the possibility of EC3 being behind the hit and run. I'm going to vote no, though, on that because EC3 has done shit. Like, what would make WWE decide to say, okay, we're going to take a guy that we currently have chasing around the green clock belt and we're going to put him in a big-time program with Roman Reigns? That's way too out of left field. And what would make you think, based on what you've seen from EC3 on WWE television so far, that Roman would have any more than 2 seconds of trouble sticking his foot up this guy's ass in a match and pinning him 1, 2, 3, before the bell is finished ringing? So I don't think EC3 really makes a credible opponent for Roman Reigns at this point. So I vote no on EC3, and I think I told the person that tweeted me that the same thing. Oh yeah, I wish I could F5 that cold. But let's get into the actual SummerSlam predictions here, since I'm supposed to be wrapping this stream up here in the next 10 minutes. It's definitely going to go longer than that. Because I'm probably going to elaborate on a few of these matches, but a few matches I will not elaborate on because there's not going to be much to say about them. Like I said, we're going to start at the bottom of the card. This will likely be the kickoff match. Drew Gulak versus Oney Lorcan. I'm going Gulak to retain there. That's going to be a fun, hard-hitting, like brutal type of cruiserweight match. Maybe a little bit different than a really pretty match like Ali versus, I don't know, Gallagher or something. This is going to be a little bit more intense, and I'm going to go Gulak to retain the title there. And like I said, they may add last minute something to the kickoff. Neither Raw or SmackDown tag team titles are on the line, and the Intercontinental title is also not on the line. It's also possible that they may bump the U.S. title to the kickoff, but I hope not. Speaking of that U.S. title match, we do have AJ Styles defending against Ricochet. The only thing I am upset about with this match is I think this should have been a ladder match. We've already seen these guys wrestle. They've had regular matches. They're the two exact type of guys you would want to see in a ladder match. Ladder matches at SummerSlam is kind of a thing. We've had some very memorable and historical ones in SummerSlam history. 1995, 1998, 2000 in the TLCs. There's probably been some others. And I really think they missed a big opportunity here not making this match a ladder match. There's a belt on the line. Why not? So I don't know what they were thinking there. Either way, though, I'm going Styles to retain over Ricochet. Goldberg taking on Dolph Ziggler. That match was set up this past week on Monday Night Raw. We knew it was going to be Goldberg or it was going to be Shawn. They used Shawn and Miz both as a red herring to get Goldberg into this match. I would have much rather seen Ziggler versus Shawn Michaels. That would have been the perfect match to have at SummerSlam, since Shawn has had some pretty memorable matches at that event as well. But much like The Undertaker, I think Goldberg really, really wants to redeem himself from that fucking shit match he had with Undertaker in Saudi Arabia. Thing still makes me cringe. And putting him in the ring with Dolph Ziggler, it's going to be impossible to not have a bad match here. The match is not going to go long. If you think you're going to get a 20-minute match here, you're crazy. This is going to be very short, I would assume, just a couple of minutes. But I think Dolph is going to get tossed around the ring. He's going to make Goldberg look like $1 million. He's going to eat a spear, and he's going to get pinned. And it'll be a much better outing, I think, for Goldberg than what he had in Saudi Arabia. Plus, he lost in Saudi Arabia, and I don't think you're going to have Goldberg come in and lose again to somebody like Dolph Ziggler. Like I said, would have much rather had it be Shawn Michaels, but whatever, it's Goldberg. What are you going to do? And I'm going to predict Goldberg to win there. That's probably the one match. There's probably two. I say there's 3 matches that are guaranteed victories, and I'm going to talk about all 3 of those right now. The first one is Goldberg and Ziggler. The next one is Bray Wyatt against Finn Balor. Again, much like the Styles and Ricochet match, I think they missed the boat on doing a ladder match. And on this one, they missed the boat doing the Demon. You should do the Demon here. You should have the Demon suffer his first loss on the main roster to Bray Wyatt. I think that would be a big win for Bray Wyatt. Nice feather in his cap. Because beating regular Finn Balor, everybody does that. So what's the big deal? This match is big for Bray Wyatt because it's the first time we've seen this Fiend character inside the ring actually having a match. It looks as if the mandible claw will be his finish. We didn't know that when he attacked Mick Foley because we just thought he was putting the mandible claw on Mick Foley. But then last week, he did it to Kurt Angle as well. So now it looks like that will be his official finish, which I think is great. You got Bray Wyatt using the mandible claw. You got Kevin Owens using the Stone Cold Stunner. Half of the roster uses the super kick in their matches as well. So there's a whole lot of Attitude Era finishing moves in the company right now. So that I like. But you cannot put Balor over in this situation. Apparently, he's going to be taking some time off. He's requested time off. It was granted. He's going to be off TV for a little while anyway. When he comes back, I would love to see him turn heel and join up with AJ and Gallows and Anderson, because the OC, as they're called, are doing okay so far. Even Gallows was on Raw last week wearing the face paint. How awesome was that? I don't think he's done that yet at all since he's been in WWE. So that was cool to see. And with Heyman in charge of those guys, that brings me a lot of comfort to know that those guys are on a brand where Heyman is heading up creative, because Heyman will not wipe his ass with those guys and treat him like shit. So maybe there's some hope yet for Gallows and Anderson and AJ in this faction. And if you add Balor to this in the future, it's going to be fun shit, man. So I'm going to go Bray Wyatt easily to defeat... what did I say? Bray Wyatt to easily defeat Finn Balor. Excuse me. The Fiend is going to defeat Balor. And the other match that I think is a virtual lock and a virtual guarantee is Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. Kevin Owens, the stipulation in this match is if Kevin Owens loses, he quits WWE, which is stupid because he quit WWE last year and he came right back. If he quits again, he can just come right back. So the stip means nothing. And on top of that, Shane is one of the most asshole-ish heels that we've seen in a long time. The fans are sick and tired of him completely. He got the last word on Kevin Owens last week on SmackDown, beating him down quite convincingly with the help from Elias, I believe. So yeah, Owens going to win this match. Second time around for these guys in their feud. They had the big Hell in the Cell match last year, and I don't think the outcome here will be any different. Owens will defeat Shane McMahon, and I would like to see Kevin Owens go on to potentially challenge for a world title after this program is done. If he has this big win over Shane McMahon here, I would like to see him challenge for the WWE title or the Universal title at some point really soon. If Randy Orton defeats Kofi Kingston, that could be a good title program. Randy Orton and Kevin Owens. But we'll talk about the Kofi match in a minute. We've got Trish Stratus taking on Charlotte, another attraction match. So we've got Trish and Goldberg coming out of retirement to have matches here. They did the thing on Raw where Trish was actually involved in a tag team match. It was Trish and Natalya against Charlotte and Becky. Is that what it was? I think that's what it was. Charlotte and Becky could not get along. Nobody could get along in this. Trish was never even tagged in, and her and Charlotte never even put their hands on each other, which I thought was the right way to book it. But as far as the match goes, it's Trish's hometown. She's going to be hugely over. But this is definitely, I would assume, and I could be wrong, this is definitely a feather for WWE, another feather for WWE to put in the cap of Charlotte. I think Charlotte's going to beat Trish Stratus here. And I know people don't want to hear this because nobody likes Charlotte or whatever, but I've always liked Charlotte. I think she's awesome. WWE is booking her and presenting her as the greatest women's champion that's ever lived and greatest women's wrestler the company has ever seen. That's how they're positioning her. I think she's already there, but is really going to solidify that with a few more title wins and a few defeated legends on her way. So I think Charlotte will defeat Trish Stratus, and that's the way it should go. You know, if you're one of those people that thinks Trish should win this, that's a little bit insane, because these are the same type of people that say, oh, why do all these legends have to come back on these shows? Why does WWE always have to rely on the legends to carry the TV shows and to sell the pay-per-views? Well, you can't have that opinion and then also think Trish Stratus should beat Charlotte, because that makes no sense. So you might hate Charlotte, but you at least have to admit she needs to win this match. And I'm predicting Charlotte in, what essentially is a dream match. I mean, I was a big Trish fan back in the day. What attracted me to Trish so much when she was wrestling is that I was disgusted with the women's division, always thought it was a joke. Everybody that they brought into WWE and WCW in many occasions were just models, fitness models, bikini models, brought in and taught to wrestle. Trish was one of those people. She was a fitness model. She was in magazines doing spreads on her bikini and all that stuff. And she got brought into WWE, and she's one of the few cases where they took a model and taught them how to wrestle, and taught them how to wrestle well. Trish was good in terms of models turned wrestlers. Trish is easily the best we've ever seen. She was beloved. She was adored. She was a great babyface. She was a great heel. She had a lot of great moments, a lot of great feuds. I loved the way she went out. That match was in Toronto, was it not? When she beat Lita, won the women's title and retired. I shed a tear for her that night. That was a beautiful night. 2006? Something like that. So Trish, I think, is a true legend of that time. But, Charlotte is the real deal. Charlotte is the daughter of the Nature Boy. Charlotte is somebody that got into wrestling to wrestle. She's following her brother's dreams, who he wasn't able to follow his dreams because of his untimely death. I think Charlotte's story has always been good and heartfelt and emotional, and I like her story. So I don't think that she needs to take a loss to Trish Stratus here, because what does that do for Charlotte? What's the point of giving Trish a win? It's not like she's coming back full time. So nothing here says to me Trish should win, so I'm going Charlotte there. We've got Bayley defending the SmackDown Women's title against Ember Moon. Now, Ember, she tapped out, right, on SmackDown to the sharpshooter? Is this what you want to be doing to the woman that's going to challenge for the SmackDown title? So I don't think that Ember winning the title here, as much as I would love to see Ember Moon get on the map and be champion, it's another match that doesn't, or another victory, it seems like, that wouldn't be built to. Like, remember Brock Lesnar when he beat John Cena for the title 5 years ago? I just put a watch along to that up a couple days ago, which nobody watched. It has like no views on it, probably less than 1,000. But you remember they were building Brock to that. He was on a winning streak. He started to look good. He beat CM Punk at SummerSlam, and then he went on to beat The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania 30, and then he went on to defeat John Cena. Like, he was slowly being built up to this unstoppable beast, which he already was, although he had suffered some losses from John Cena, Triple H, and others. He was kind of built and pushed towards that direction, to where when he won, you knew he was going to win. With Ember Moon, if she wins, it'll almost be like an upset, which isn't necessarily always bad, but Ember Moon, I don't feel like, has been used on TV in the way that says she's going to be the new champion. So I'm going to predict Bayley to retain. Where is Sasha Banks? There's a couple of women I'm going to talk about that have been absent. Sasha Banks is one of them, and Ronda Rousey is another. I would not be surprised if we saw one or both somehow return on this pay-per-view. Does Sasha come out and cost Bayley the match here and turn Ember Moon heel? Because Bayley is in the ring with a fellow babyface, I don't think Sasha interference makes much sense here. But maybe Ember goes heel after the match or something. Maybe Ember beats Bayley for the title by cheating, then starts beating Bayley up after the match, and then Sasha runs out to make the save. Maybe Bayley beats Ember Moon, and Ember gets pissed and snaps and beats up Bayley, and that causes Sasha to run out. Could happen either way there. Or we might not see Sasha at all. And given the type of match that this is, Sasha running in here to me doesn't seem like it fits. Doesn't mean she can't. It just feels to me like it wouldn't be a good place to bring Sasha back right here in this match. Aside from the fact that it is SummerSlam, a big pay-per-view, come back in, make a splash in a very memorable way. All of that makes sense, but the match itself, I don't know where Sasha would really fit in. So I'm just going to straight up pick Bayley to retain the title and get past Ember Moon, and we'll see where they go from here. In the other women's match, we've got Becky Lynch, of course, defending the title against Natalya. This is a submission match. So we know what that means. Submission match. You must say I quit. You must tap out. Submission matches are no disqualifications, correct? What's stopping Ronda Rousey from showing up here? What the hell's going on with Ronda Rousey? She was supposed to start a family, right? We haven't heard that she's pregnant. There's even been some rumblings that she is going to be coming back sooner than later. Heard that a few weeks ago. So I think this match would actually be a good spot for Ronda to come back. Unlike Bayley and Ember, where I don't think Sasha fit in, I think Ronda definitely fits into this. Because wasn't it last year? Didn't Jim Neidhart die like last year at SummerSlam and Natty wore the jacket out and all of that? They were building towards a Natty and Ronda split, clearly. Looked like Natalya was going to turn on her, but the timing was just off. They never did it. So what if you do a Ronda run in here? Ronda, don't forget, never really was pinned at WrestleMania because her shoulder was up. You know she's going to come back and use that as an excuse. I don't think we do a double turn because Ronda was kind of newly turned heel before WrestleMania anyway, going on those interview rants saying how wrestling is fake and all of that. Putting Ronda back babyface again would be weird, and turning Becky heel I think would be weird. So what I think you'd have to do is turn Natty heel and have her defeat Becky Lynch with help from Ronda Rousey. But again, it's a submission match. You mean to tell me Becky's going to tap out? Becky's going to submit? Maybe they do the Stone Cold deal, WrestleMania 13. I don't think you can get that much color, but if you have some blood on her face and she's screaming and wincing in pain to the sharpshooter, same move, and she can't get out of it, eventually she passes out. They call for the bell. Natalya wins the match after all this help from Ronda Rousey, because for all we know, Ronda Rousey could come in the ring with a chair and just beat the piss out of Becky Lynch for 15 minutes straight, and the referee can't do a damn thing about it. It's a submission match. So does Becky get some backup? Does somebody come out to help Becky fend off these two, or do the two of them just beat the shit out of Becky, and then Natalya puts her in the sharpshooter with Ronda standing there with a chair, and Becky's unconscious, laying in a pool of her own blood, and the referee calls for the bell? That would be okay. It gives Natty the belt. Natty's now a heel. Gives her a little bit different attitude and something else to do. And you can have Ronda and Becky continue their feud, because now it's personal. Ronda lost the belt, she feels, unjustly at WrestleMania. She came back and stole the belt away and gave it to her friend. Stole the belt away from Becky and gave it to her friend Natalya. Now the two of those ladies can have a grudge match, and you don't even need the title. And then maybe Natalya can go off and feud with somebody else completely different. That is a possibility. And Natty looked heelish on Monday. She did. She looked heelish on Tuesday as well. So I think a heel turn is likely here. But then again, is Becky going to lose the belt? The man don't tap, as Luna Strife says. And I believe you. So I think if Becky loses, it's going to have to be a pass out type of thing. It's going to have to be a referee stoppage, something like that. Gives her an easy reason to have a rematch. And if Ronda is there, you can have Becky and Ronda going back at it. But You could also keep the match, or you could also keep the title on Becky and have Ronda come back and continue the feud with Becky and Ronda going forward. Ronda wants a rematch for that title. Maybe Ronda wins it back at the next pay-per-view. Maybe it's Ronda and Becky for the title at Clash of Champions or Night of Champions or whatever the hell's coming up in September, and you do the title switch and you pass it back to Ronda there. I don't know. I really don't know how to predict this thing. I think it could go Natty turning heel, because otherwise Natty winning the belt makes no sense. Babyface Natty winning the title is horrifically bad sounding. I don't want to see that. But heel Natty, with some help from her friend Ronda, and with a hell of a lot of backup now, she's got Ronda by her side. That's a hell of a bodyguard to have with you to help protect your title. What do I do here, guys? Who do I predict? I have Becky written down, but part of me likes my idea of having Ronda run out and cost Becky the title. I'm going to go... am I going to go Becky? I'm going to go... Shit, what do I do? Let's do Becky. I'm going Becky. She's going to retain, but I would not be surprised at all if we see Ronda Rousey. And maybe Ronda Rousey comes out after the fact. Maybe the match is just a normal match. Maybe Becky just beats her, taps Natalya out, and then Ronda comes out at the end and confronts Becky and attacks her, and they have a brawl and a pull apart. That might be better. Might be better if Ronda does come back. Even though I think the two could have a grudge match without the belt, I think it might be more fun with the belt. So let's keep it on Becky and have her retain. Kofi Kingston defending the title against Randy Orton, WWE title on the line. I'm going to go Kofi. I think a lot of people are predicting Randy Orton. I think a lot of people are predicting Kofi's run finally coming to an end. But much like Shayna Baszler, I kind of think that it's fun when Kofi keeps getting these victories that we're not expecting him to have. Because if you notice, every match that he's had so far has just been like one-offs. He's worked with somebody, beat him, and moved on. Randy Orton is just another example of this, or could be. So maybe you put the title on Orton, but maybe you don't do it at SummerSlam. Maybe this is the first time Kofi has a challenger that he actually faces the next month as well. So maybe you have Kofi win here, Randy Orton gets the rematch, and then you put the belt on Orton and he'll be champion going into SmackDown, moving to Fox. Or you do a title change on that first show. And if you do that, what do you do? Do you have Kofi hold it until the first ever SmackDown show on Fox and drop it there? Or do you have him drop it to somebody and that person loses? You know, because maybe Randy Orton is a bigger name than Kofi Kingston, as much as I hate to say it. So maybe if you have Randy Orton going into the SmackDown show as champion and he faces another big-time star and he drops the title to that star, that might be a bigger match to have on Fox's first show. I don't know. But given the fact that Kofi was the one that kind of hand-selected Randy Orton, they have a lot of history dating back 10 years ago to that feud that basically, you know, Kofi's push, you know, he had the brakes put on him after everything went down with Randy Orton in that spot in that match where Kofi botched a spot or missed a spot and Randy Orton RKO'd him and called him stupid right there in front of everybody. I like that they're playing into all of this, and I think a lot of people are over Kofi Kingston being champion, but I don't see any harm in having him retain one more time. He's going to drop that belt eventually. He probably likely will not have that belt any longer than SmackDown's first show on Fox. Whether he drops it before or drops it on that show, either way, I think Kofi's days are numbered. So if you have him win another match here that most fans might be expecting him to lose, I think could be fun. And it would show that Kofi, you know, Kofi's run has not been perfect, but I think Kofi's run has been better than Seth Rollins. You know, Kofi's been impressive. He's been carrying the torch well. His matches have been good. He's still, you know, deemed a mid-card star for life by many fans, which they're not entirely wrong about that. But I think he's doing a good job with his run. New Day is still fun. I like Kofi. I like that he's gotten this opportunity, and I'm glad that they did not put the belt on him for a cup of coffee. They're giving him the belt and treating it seriously. You know, Chris Benoit won the title at WrestleMania 20 and dropped it at SummerSlam. You know, he only had a short run with it. So I would like to see Kofi actually extend beyond that, maybe just a little bit longer. And Randy Orton, maybe he'll feel like me. Maybe he'll catch a little bit of a cold on his last day on vacation, because apparently he's on vacation with his wife right now, and she RKO'd him into the ocean. That's been all over Twitter and all over YouTube, which is pretty funny. So maybe he comes back and he's just not quite with it. Kofi scores an upset and he gets a rematch and wins the title down the line. Either way, I think Kofi will retain the WWE title. And that brings us to the main event and another match that I have absolutely no idea what to predict here, but considering I have not predicted really any title changes at all on this card, I haven't. Everybody I have retaining the title. You got to have a title change here. You have to. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be wrong on a good amount of these matches because I think we're going to have no less than 2 title changes. And so far, I predicted 0. And Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins, we've seen what's been going on with them on TV the past couple of weeks. Seth Rollins took that absolute ass-kicking on Raw a couple of weeks ago where he was brutalized in the ring, F5'd, ribs first onto chairs, carried off on a stretcher, loaded into the ambulance. Brock Lesnar opens the ambulance doors, throws Seth out of there, gives him an F5 on the stretcher with Seth Rollins' body bouncing about 6 inches right off of solid steel. Blood coming out of his mouth. Great sell job by Seth Rollins. And for some reason, this dumb shit shows up this past week on Raw after taking the ass-kicking of a lifetime, after taking an ass-kicking that would put me in a rehab facility where I'd have to relearn how to talk and walk. This guy's out there the very next week, hobbling down to the ring in a very unconvincing way. Pretty safe to say that Seth Rollins probably did not play Tiny Tim in his school's Christmas Carol performance. He was not very convincing, coming out there kind of hobbling around, and got in the ring to confront or fight Brock Lesnar and just got his ass kicked again. Brock Lesnar just beat the crap out of him. Why would you do this? If you want your belt back so bad, you got a match with him in a week. You're not courageous. You're stupid. That makes no sense. I mean, they're really, really trying to get as much sympathy for Seth as possible, I feel, and try to get him over as a babyface. But in my opinion, they're failing at it. They're absolutely failing at it. But one thing that kind of struck me is after that ass kicking, Seth Rollins got on the mic, cut that very shitty, sad promo, which did nothing for me. The crowd didn't even give a shit. But he said, I'll beat Brock Lesnar. I guarantee it. So that makes me wonder if he's got a trick up his sleeve. To me, Brock Lesnar should retain here. To me, Brock Lesnar, normally I've been predicting Brock to win all the way up until this point. Because my argument here is, why would they give Brock the briefcase? Well, first of all, why would they have him lose the belt at WrestleMania, then give him the briefcase, then give the belt back to him at Extreme Rules, only to have him give the belt back the very next month? That makes no sense. And now he's dropping the title 2 years in a row at SummerSlam. I just find that incredibly hard to understand the logic behind. Like, why even give Brock the belt to begin with if he's going to drop it to Seth again? Why did you do that? Why not just have Brock hang on to the briefcase and play with it and tease us and toy with the champions? Which brand am I going to show up on? He could go over there and cash in on Kofi on the first ever SmackDown on Fox. I thought that's what they were going to do. I thought Brock would cash in that briefcase on Kofi. So he took it from Seth. Now he's just going to give it back to him? Why? Why did they even go through this if that's going to be the case? So every single instinct in me tells me that Brock Lesnar is going to retain here. But considering what I predicted on this show already, and considering that SummerSlam is a very important and significant show, and I have no title changes on the show, no way. We're going to see a title change. So I'm going to predict Seth Rollins to win back the title somehow. How does he do it? If that's the case, he's going to be battered. He's going to be bruised. He's going to have to cheat. He's going to have to low blow Brock like he did at WrestleMania. Maybe Seth, what I would like to see Seth do eventually, not that this could necessarily happen Sunday, but sometime in the very near future, I want to see Seth Rollins go heel. It's time. He does nothing for us as a babyface. And I love Seth Rollins. You know, when I'm watching him take an ass kicking like he did from Brock the past couple of weeks, the way he sells, the way he works, you know, that's great. You know, Seth taking ass kicking's good. Seth cutting sad, sappy, whiny ass promos, bad. Very, very bad. His title run was nothing significant. He doesn't really get over with the as a babyface with the audience at all, in my opinion. I think he'd be better off being a heel. So somebody even threw out the idea to me last week that maybe they could do a double turn. And I think that would be really tough to pull off with not only Seth Rollins, but Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar, the very idea that he is holding that belt is enough to infuriate the wrestling audience because he's never on TV and shit. So we don't want to go back to that. We don't want to see this guy sit on his house for months at a time with our title belt that he's not defending and it's not featured on television. So it's going to be really hard to get Brock over as a babyface, considering the type of fan heat that he currently gets and shit. You know what I mean? But if he drops the belt, if Seth just comes out there with a steel chair or a baseball bat with nails sticking out of it and just damn near murders Brock Lesnar and then beats him, that could maybe be the beginning of a Seth Rollins heel turn. But then why are you going to beat down Brock Lesnar like that? So I'm predicting Seth Rollins, but I am not confident about it. To me, Seth Rollins' title victory actually makes no sense, considering what they've done leading up to this. If they shouldn't have put the belt on Brock to begin with, but since they did, I think he needs to hold on to it. I do. I absolutely do. So I'm actually going against my own instinct here and predicting Seth just so I can even out my predictions here with some actual title changes. But I'm expecting to be wrong on this. This will likely be the main event, like the actual final match on the card, which makes me feel a little bit better about the possibility of Seth winning. But what do? I think we got to do a swerve. I think we've got to do something. Maybe Seth Rollins just comes out there and says, you know what? Two can play at this game. I cheated once to win the title with the low blow. Maybe he comes out there and does that again. Brock, I'm guessing Seth's going to come out to the ring first. But if Brock hits the ring first, then maybe Seth runs in from behind, jumps the barricade, and attacks Brock Lesnar from behind, just like Brock has been known to do to people many times. Beat the hell out of them before the bell even rings, and then the bell rings and they're easy pickings. So maybe Seth does that. But again, if he does that, why did you put the belt on Brock to begin with? Did you really just put the belt on Brock to have him drop it in a month? Is that like, it just seems pointless. I'm right? You guys feel the same way, right? Like, why, if they take the belt off of Brock here, I just don't understand why they put it on him to begin with. They'd have just put Seth in the ring with a different challenger and have him win. That's all they needed to do. It making no sense is basically what I'm saying. But I think Seth will regain the title somehow, some way. So just to recap, I've got Drew Gulak retaining the Cruiserweight title over Oney Lorcan, The Fiend Bray Wyatt defeating Finn Balor, AJ Styles retaining the US title over Ricochet in a match that should be a ladder match, Goldberg defeating Dolph Ziggler, Charlotte defeating Trish Stratus, Kevin Owens over Shane McMahon, Bayley retaining over Ember Moon, Kofi retaining over Randy Orton. And I had a lot of mixed feelings on Becky versus Natalya. I think Natalya could win the belt and go heel with interference from Ronda Rousey. But at the end of the day, I think Becky will find a way to keep her title. And Seth Rollins will find a way to win back the Universal title. We'll see how that goes. And if he does win the Universal title, I would like to see Seth Rollins go heel. Maybe Brock Lesnar takes a few more weeks off, and then maybe Brock Lesnar returns as a babyface. They could do that. Maybe everything I laid out there with Seth Rollins jumping Brock Lesnar from behind. Maybe he does it before the match. Maybe there's a backstage segment where Seth attacks Brock, weakening him. And then Seth wins the title, Brock disappears for a little while, and then comes back as a babyface. Maybe beats Seth Rollins for the title again at Survivor Series. And there's one other X factor here. Somebody brought this name up earlier on, Braun Strowman. I think Braun Strowman, WWE has had severe issues with Seth Rollins as a babyface. He is not connected. The fans do like Braun Strowman as a babyface. It seemed like he was trying to get back on the winning track. Seemed like WWE was starting to push him more in that direction again because he was virtually ruined and on track to become Big Show 2.0. It's nice to see they put the brakes on that, and maybe there's hope for Braun Strowman yet. So if you do everything with Seth and have him turn heel, he could face a babyface Braun Strowman, with the next pay-per-view. Or what I would like even better is to have Brock Lesnar retain. Seth Rollins still remains a babyface, no heel turn or anything like that. Brock retains and then runs into Braun Strowman at some point, maybe even at SummerSlam. Maybe it's a Hogan Brett WrestleMania 9 type of deal where Brock has his match with Seth. Seth is just too injured to compete. Brock just annihilates him, pins him 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring. And Braun Strowman comes out there and says, I challenge you right now for the title. That wasn't even a match. You didn't even break a sweat. If you're a real man, why don't you take me on right now? And then Braun Strowman wins the belt to close out SummerSlam, which would make an interesting headline for WWE.com for the fans that did not watch the show, and they go over to check out the results, and they see Braun Strowman holding the Universal title on the front page of the website. That would be cool. And Braun Strowman is another guy that's not booked for this show. Where is he? I don't think he'll be involved in the Roman Reigns situation. I hope not, unless Daniel Bryan and Rowan and Strowman are all starting to form a faction together. I don't want to see Strowman go back to be a heel. I want to see him be a babyface. And if you have if you have Brock Lesnar retain the belt again, fans are going to be booing him. They're going to be sick of it. And that's the perfect opportunity to strike while that iron's hot. You know, try to right the wrongs that you did with Braun Strowman when you virtually sacrificed him for the Roman agenda a year ago, and get him back on track. Have him beat Brock Lesnar, and I think Braun Strowman beating a heel Brock would be much more important than Brock Lesnar beating a heel Seth Rollins. Than Braun Strowman beating a heel Seth Rollins. So I'd like to see Braun either come out at SummerSlam and beat Brock right there for the title, or maybe challenge to the next pay-per-view or something like that. Either way, I want to see the Universal title in the big-ass hands of Braun Strowman sometime in the near future. So he's a wild card in this. Look for him. I think we could potentially see Braun Strowman, we could see Sasha Banks, and we could see Ronda Rousey all having big impacts on some of these matches here. Maybe even a few other possibilities as well. Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe, something's going to go on there. Daniel Bryan and Eric Rowan, Buddy Murphy, Luke Harper perhaps. There's lots of things that they could do with this card, and I'll be interested to see how it goes. Randy Orton is winning, huh? He is winning. Okay, we got a WWE creative team member in the chat here. That is awesome. Boy, you guys, I laugh so hard at like the confidence of some people. Oh, so-and-so is winning. Look, motherfucker, we just been reading reports on the internet for weeks about how every week on TV, Vince McMahon is tearing up scripts. There is absolutely no way anything is set in stone at all when you hear shit like that. You could be 1 hour before SummerSlam starts on Sunday, and Vince could rewrite every fucking match. So saying so-and-so is winning is bullshit. Nobody knows for sure. And I have a really good possibility of losing a lot of these matches. Like I said, there's only a few locks. Bray Wyatt's a lock over Balor. Goldberg's a lock over Ziggler. And Owens, I feel, is a lock over Shane. Everything else is somewhat suspect. Charlotte's probably a lock over Trish, too. But other than that, a lot of those matches could go either way here. So nobody knows for sure. Do I have a cat behind me? Hey, what are you doing? Cats. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here because I got to go to work. And like I said, I am sick as shit. And I streamed a lot longer than I meant to, about an hour and a half. And like I said at the beginning of the video, if any of you want to go through here after I'm done and find the timestamps of all of these predictions, feel free to put them in the comments below. And I'll pin you to the top of the page. You guys be good. Thank you for hanging out for me today. I apologize I'm under the weather. I apologize I'm sick. I will have my shit together by Sunday for sure. And come join me for my SummerSlam watch party this Sunday starting at 4 p.m. Pacific, which is right at the start time of the main card. And it should be a lot of fun. Dawson Gaming, I'm nice to see you say hello to me, but I'm about to say goodbye. I'm just reading a couple of these other chats here. Yeah, the cat's in the background there. And yeah, thanks to a pretty good audience in here too. A couple hundred people here to finish this up, which is not bad for a Thursday afternoon. You guys are awesome. Before you also sign off, could you hit me with a few more likes so we can get those up to 100 or 200 likes here? That would be awesome. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in just a couple of days on Sunday. Have a great weekend. And let's hope for a good SummerSlam pay-per-view this year. Fingers crossed. Y'all be good. Peace.